Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for turning up and joining us tonight. And hello to you, those who are watching the recording tomorrow. My name is Rcmp. I'm the CEO of the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce, and I'm pleased to be hosting tonight's event. Before we start, I do want to recognize that tonight's event is being held on the traditional lands of the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Matsqui peoples, and we appreciate the opportunity to conduct our work on these lands, particularly this week as we head towards this Friday, September 30th, and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. A little bit about the Chamber of Commerce. For 91 years, the Chamber has been the voice of local business, a platform for collaboration and connection for Langley business people, and an advocate for our strong and diverse business community. Today we represent about 1,000 distinct businesses right across the Langleys, making us one of the largest and longest serving business associations in the area. We are a strictly nonpartisan organization, so tonight we're pleased to be holding this Community Candidates Forum for the benefit of our friends and neighbors in the City of Langley, so that we can all hear from those seeking to serve our community as mayor and city councilors. If you have friends or family who couldn't make it tonight, fret not. We are recording tonight's event, and we'll be posting the video later this week. We had our township event on Monday, and the video went out today. So if anyone misses it tonight, or you just can't bear to only see it once and you want to watch it a second time, you'll have the recording that you can watch again. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Please, we are asking you no food and drink in the auditorium. If you can help that, please, that'd be wonderful. Washrooms are located just back where you came from and around the corner, just outside. I want to stress that I would really like to encourage you to please be respectful of the participants here tonight and of your fellow attendees. We want everyone to have the opportunity to be heard and to speak and to share their views. I think the beauty of our system is that if you don't agree with what you hear tonight, you don't need to boo it down or hiss it down. You have the ultimate power on October 15th to make that known at the ballot box. If you turn on your news or check your news feed all around the world, there are people right now who are dying in the streets for the freedoms that we will be exercising tonight, so let's treat that with the respect I think it deserves. All declared candidates for the City of Langley were contacted and invited to participate tonight. I think we have everybody, which is wonderful. You can see here we don't have 14 seats on the stage, so we will be breaking the council candidates into two groups of 2, or 2 groups of 7, just so we have a chance for a little bit more, cover a little bit more ground with the candidates, but everyone will be asked the same number of questions and have a chance to hear from everybody equally. Questions for tonight have been sought for several weeks from the public and from our membership. Those questions, the ideas, the topics and themes have been gathered and turned into a series of questions which I'll be posting to the candidates tonight. No candidates have been given these questions in advance, but we have shared that the topics of the questions will focus on transportation, crime and public safety, housing and development, parks, recreation and the environment, taxes, budgets and business, and governing and leadership. I do want to recognize that this event is made possible because of a partnership we have with our friends at the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, and we appreciate their support in putting on this important community engagement tonight and the one we did on Monday with the township. So before I dive in any further, I did want to thank our presenting partner and invite Mike Katai with Oakland Realty to come and say a few words of welcome on behalf of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. Mike.
Thank you, Corey. Hello, my name is Michael Katai. I'm a realtor with the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. The Fraser Valley Real Estate Board represents approximately 4,800 realtors in 7 communities in the Fraser Valley, representing Abbotsford, Mission, Langley City, Langley Township, North Delta, Surrey, and White Rock. We are members of these communities, and we work closely with residents on some of the most important decisions of their lives. We have been supporting these types of meetings since 2001 because we feel since it's important to know who we're voting for in an election and what they stand for. After all, the people that we elect to be our representatives will make decisions on our behalf and for our future. We're also here to pose questions that we feel are relevant to the community and listen to the ideas and concerns of others. We appreciate the Langley Chamber of Commerce for making it possible for us to hear from candidates, and we look forward to meeting and dialogue to follow. Thank you.
And I also want to thank, before I move any further, to KPU for hosting us here tonight, and to all of their team, including especially Katie Openshaw for all your help getting everything set up for tonight and having us here in the beautiful auditorium. So with that, that's the end of what you're going to hear from the podium. I'm going to be moving over to my seat here at the front, and we'll be introducing our first group of candidates. I'm going to be asking the candidates now to come to the stage. So Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Paul Albrecht, Delaney Mack, Cherise Okanow, Mike Solium, David Stiegel, and Leith White is our first group. So please join me in welcoming our candidates from Group 1. We've got seats for everybody, perfect. So just a little bit of ground rules here, so you know what to expect. Appreciate everyone being here today. I'm going to be asking, we have 7 candidates here, I'm going to be asking a question to 3 or 4 candidates at a time, and we'll give each candidate up to 1.5 minutes to respond. So Bertie's going to have your time in here. You will see a yellow card raised when you have 15 seconds remaining, so you can finish your thoughts. That doesn't mean wrap up immediately, just so you can have a chance to finish your thoughts. When you see a red card, that does mean finish up immediately because your time is up and we're going to be moving on. And we ask you to please respect the time on that. But before we get into the questions, so we know and the audience knows who's here, we're going to provide everybody up to 60 seconds for an introduction to share a little bit about who you are, your background, your experience, why you're running for council this year. So we will start, and maybe we'll just work our way down the table here. So Councillor Gail Martin, maybe we'll start with you there. For your introductions, and the mic should all be live there for you.
I'll pull up just a little closer. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gail Martin, and I am seeking another term on Langley City Council as a councillor. And I ask for your support on October the 15th. As a result of my time on council and continued community involvement, I offer stability and experienced leadership and an understanding of the needs and challenges of our city. Homelessness, housing, affordability, crime and safety are top of mind for many. And these are very complex issues. I don't have a ready solution. However, as a member of council, I will work with my colleagues to address these issues. I will continue my commitment to serve you, our citizens, with the same dedication as I have in the past. I am fiscally responsible and will ensure exceptional value for our tax dollars. I am proud to have served the citizens of Langley and thank each and every one for their continued support, and thank the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce and those involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Paul Albrecht.
Yes, thank you, and happy to see everybody here tonight. It's a really important event, and I'm seeking re-election to City Council. I've been a Langley City resident for the past 30 years, raised my family, I'm a civil engineering technologist, and I have a real passion and love for this community. It's diverse, it's caring, it's compassionate, it's complete in my mind. And I am dedicated to building a community for everyone. I'm committed to achieve attainable housing. I'm committed to our public safety. I'm committed to our environment and the protection of the environment. And I'm committed to solving the social issues that we're facing on a daily basis. So I'm hopeful that I'll get your support on election day. And thank you again for the Chamber of Commerce holding this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move down the table here to Leith White.
Thank you. And thank you to the Chamber for hosting such an event tonight. My name is Leith White, and I and my wife, Patty, have been residents of Langley for 25 years now. And we have 4 daughters now, grown women in their own right, and they have their own families. And I am very grateful for 8 grandchildren now that I'm have the gift of being able to be a part of their life and seeing them grow and flourish in a place like Langley and Langley City. My experience right now is for the last 22 years, I have pastored a church in downtown Langley. We have been involved to a great extent in filling the gaps and servicing Langley's vulnerable population, but I come with a wide range of experience and business experience to back that up as I close it off.
Thank you very much. And we'll move down to Cherise Okanow.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for hosting this event again. I sound like a broken record. Thank you so much for having us. I'm seeking a seat on council. I'm a 3rd generation resident of Langley. I've been raising my family a few blocks from here. I have 3 kids, all attending a school in the Langley School District, which I myself work for as a career advisor. I am a career development practitioner. I work a lot in the employment sector, working with Work BC and connecting those that need employment with jobs, and not just with our students. I have been very involved with Langley since I can remember, starting with the Lions Club when I was just a kid collecting donations for Journey for Sight, to running the Langley Farmers Market right here in Kwantlen, making so many great connections, and now I feel like this would be a great opportunity for me to build on that and serve my community. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And we'll move on to Mike Solio.
Hi, my name is Mike Solio. I live in Langley City with my wife and 2 young children, Jacob 6 and Alexis age 3. I hold a master's degree in economics from the University of Toronto and teach Douglas College's Faculty of Commerce and Business Administration. My wife Julia is currently the acting clinical practice lead in the physiotherapy department at Langley Memorial Hospital, so if you've recently had a hip replaced or something, you might know her. I plan to use my skills and expertise to ensure that your tax dollars are always being put to their best use over the next 4 years. With SkyTrain coming, that means transformative change for our city, with huge benefits and many potential costs. We must prepare the city for the challenges this will bring. By making public safety a priority, by attracting the right businesses to our downtown core with modern, mixed-use zoning, I hope to ensure our city thrives in the coming years. All of this I hope to achieve with council while making sure that no one is left behind as our city changes. I am dedicated to tenant protections as our city moves forward, guided by the official community plan, which you can find on my website, and obviously the Langley City website. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And Delaney Mack.
Hello. Hello.
There we go.
Hello everybody, my name is Delaney Mack and I'm both a resident and business owner within the City of Langley. I have been in both roles for the past 10 years. In terms of my work experience, I handle all oversight. I'm really an owner and operator of my business. I also have an educational background in the social sciences from our very own KPU, and I've, as of very recently, been appointed to the Government Policy Committee at the Chamber of Commerce. I believe that I can offer Langley City community representation on council. Through both of my roles, I've gained an appreciation for the unique character of Langley, but also I've been really, I've experienced the challenges that are facing us. I can feel I can offer a fresh perspective to our current council and passionate principle that I care deeply about these people in the City of Langley. Affordability, safety, supportive housing, as well as infrastructure to support development are some key concerns of mine, and I'd like to see those.
Great. Thank you, Delaney. And then David Stiegel.
Is this thing on? Oh.
Just give it a second.
Good as that.
How's that?
There we go.
My name is David Stiegel. I'm a business owner at downtown Langley. So I have a shop on the one-way right across from Penny Pictures called Everything But Diamonds. We usually have stuff out front, music playing, that type of thing. That may seem like a weird introduction, but it's actually, for me, I've been here 7 days a week for years, and I've watched Langley City change, and I really feel like we need to get real people back involved in politics, and I'm here to help. That's it.
Great, thank you. So the first question is going to be going to Councillors Gail Martin and Paul Albrecht, and then Delaney Mack in that order. So that first question, and the second question will go to the remainder of the candidates. So the first question is coming from our development and housing portfolio. We've had several questions and comments submitted from Langley City residents who fear that their children are never going to be able to afford to live here and will have to move further afield. As we build out the SkyTrain and densify, what can or should be done at the local level to support housing affordability for people who want to live and build families in Langley City? So we'll start with Councillor Gail Martin, and then we'll move on to Councillor Paul Albrecht and Delaney Mack.
Thank you very much. Well, there's no doubt with the coming of SkyTrain, the city is changing a lot. And a lot of it is housing. There was a time when, you know, we had sort of to beg for developments, but not anymore. And I think what we can do as a council is we can ask our staff to look into perhaps number one, the size of the apartments or the condos, and also, you know, make sure that some of them are for subsidized housing or housing below market housing, because it's almost impossible for people today, as we all know, to move into some of these places. So there are things we can do, and I'm hoping that if I'm elected that we can get to those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Albrecht, same question to you.
Yeah, that's a really important question, especially the SkyTrain coming into our community. So staff and previous councils have developed a nexus of community to establish a vision for what we'd like to see this community turn to as SkyTrain comes in and opportunities arise. We've also done a housing inventory survey of our community. And what that does is that establishes what kind of housing we currently have out there for purchase and rental. It also identifies some significant gaps. And in the continuum of housing, we're talking about people that are just starting out. They get into a rental mode, then they move on to like say a bachelor suite, and then 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, a townhouse, and then into a single-family home. So in order to effectively move people through that continuum, we need to reduce the gaps or the significance of those gaps, and that allows people to make those investments, invest in their future, and invest in the community, and allow a family to not only grow in the community, but flourish in the community. And that continuum can also go the other way. As you retire, you're getting older, you want to downsize, so you can move down that continuum as well. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Albrecht. And Delaney Mack, you'll be wrapping up this question for us.
So I've had the privilege of being in the same rental suite now for the past 10 years. So I can really relate when people talk about being in rent lock and then looking at their options after they wish to leave their place. So I do have that insight. I think that really when we talk about affordability, it should almost be framed as the unaffordability of our community, because when you look at the average household income in Langley City, it is very moderate. And affordable housing is defined as 30% of your actual income, which hardly anybody, it doesn't apply to our actual residents that live here now. In terms of solutions, I think we need to diversify the housing options that we have, and we can look at unique ways like maybe laneway homes or grow homes, and I think that we need to build partnerships with developers that are willing to bring in below market rate rentals or really for purchase units. Thank you.
Thank you, Delaney. We had a number of questions that came in regarding the homeless and precariously housed populations in the City of Langley, which to many seem to be growing. From the tenor of the questions, many are frustrated that more progress has not been made. What policies would you advocate for at the council table that would address this persistent challenge and that we haven't already tried before? So, Sharice, open up over to you.
One of my first positions was working for a transition house in Surrey called the Ontario Women's Resource Society. I did the staffing for their housing for like 7 different transition programs within their business, and I don't see a lot of what they had in play here. So seniors transition housing for women where they could stay for 180 days and be transitioned either into other supportive housing or into being placed back into that housing again. And I'd love to be a part working with communities like Ishtar or other transition homes, or like Gateway of Hope and other places like where you run to advocate for more transition housing. I think there's only 3 transition houses that I'm aware of, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that's a big gap when it comes to housing homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to Mike Soliam on this question. Mike?
All right, so I spent a lot of time talking to sitting councillors about the issue of homelessness and what kind of solutions are available for a municipal government. A lot of this stuff is the jurisdiction of the province, so it makes it difficult for the municipality to take action. And so from my understanding, a lot of the money comes from Fraser Health and the province, And it's being offered to these disparate organizations that they're all kind of vying for the same dollars that are made available from Fraser Health. So my understanding is the best way forward would be to start by having someone to coordinate where these funds go. So the funds might go to Stepping Stone, they might go to the Vineyard, might play to the strengths of those individual organizations who each have their own best way of improving a certain aspect of a homeless person's life. So I know if you look at the Good Night Inn over on Fraser and 200th, that's got funding for housing the homeless, but beyond that, there's nothing else. So there isn't any type of facility to help them find work or find a way off of drugs or something like that. So we have these 4 pillars that we talk about in ending homelessness, and oftentimes we find ourselves really relying on one single pillar to hold the whole thing up. And I think if we can get proper coordination between these different organizations, funneling the money towards them, I think we can make some real gains. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move to David Stiegel on this question.
Thank you. I think the key part of that question is, and if you ask the question again, there's things we haven't tried. And I think that's really, I think we're trying a lot of different things. And I think that it's being done in a really haphazard, you know, sort of like we're always playing catch up. And I feel like, you know, to the credit of all the candidates here, all of us are looking to solve the same problem. All I can commit to doing is recognizing that I think that sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Some of the community organizations that we're supporting aren't doing a very good job, and some of them are doing an excellent job. So I would commit to doing working more with places that are doing a good job and less with people that aren't.
Okay. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
And to wrap this question up, we'll go over to Leith White, please.
Thank you. I've been knocking on doors probably about 100 a day for the last couple of weeks. And if it's not the #1 concern that residents in Langley City have, it's certainly #2. It's the issue of homelessness. And homelessness affects every single person in Langley City. And it affects us through our taxes, it affects us with our level of safety, it affects us with issues of cleanliness and sanitation. Not one person is unaffected by the issue of homelessness, especially those who are experiencing it themselves. I think we are spinning our wheels and have been spinning our wheels as a city over the last several years because of the general approach that has been taken to the issue of homelessness. And in reference, what I'm talking about is the level of collaboration. Homelessness is a community issue. It requires a community response. And that is where I feel it's been significantly lacking. The UBCM has gave $600,000, or Langley City qualified for $600,000 of provincial grants for homelessness, and Langley City didn't even make an application for that in the last 2 years. So I think that speaks for itself.
Thank you for that. With the SkyTrain coming to Langley by the end of the decade, the opportunity for growth and development in Langley is tremendous, and many are excited, as we heard when we asked for questions. However, we did get some questions from people who are concerned that this growth is going to go too fast, and that we're going to go too dense, and that the new OCP too drastically changes the nature of the community. So in your opinion, what is the right mix for Langley City between density and growth, and especially in the downtown core? So Councillor Paul Albrecht, over to you first.
Wow, what a great question. Yeah, we have to find a balanced approach on this. Again, I'll allude back to our Nexus of Community. It's a great document, and it kind of sets a pathway moving forward for what we'd like to see. I believe that we need to be attracting the same number of jobs and business opportunities as well as housing starts. We're in pretty good shape. We're a net importer of workers into our community. Not a lot of people are leaving the community to find work from the numbers that I understand. And to find that right balance is the key. And that's where it comes to council, staff, setting the table for what we want to see and the timing for those developments. There's the affordability issue comes into play as well. You want to have enough inventory out there on the market so that you can try to get the prices down. Again, it's all very interesting and subtle and really dynamic in the way it interacts with each other. But we've got some really great plans. We have the Innovation Boulevard from KPU back to the downtown, where we're going to introduce mixed use. And those types of, I think, measures and thoughts and thoughtful development processes will help build our community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor. Delaney Mack, your turn on this question.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned, I live in Nickelmuckle, and I've been in the same unit for 10 years. I have seen the changes in the Nickelmuckle region, specifically north Nickelmuckle. It's been drastic. When I first moved into my apartment, there were probably 5 or 6 developments around me, and now there probably in the last 5 years have been about 15 plus added. So the makeup of our community is very quickly changing. I do understand that there has to be a balance between development, where you have to move forward, but at the same time, I'm very concerned with having the infrastructure to actually support said development. For example, we had many parents with children who were in multi-purpose rooms because they couldn't find classrooms for their kids. This I find problematic. So in terms of development, I think we need to strike a real balance between resident needs, business needs, growth, and then also preserving our heritage and our green spaces. In terms of the OCP, I think we've had the same oversight for a very long time. I would like to review it and look at how we plan to move forward as a community to make sure that it really considers the residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll finish this question on the right mix of density as we go over to Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you. Are we going too fast? Some may say yes, some may say no. We've had an influx of development in our community, and it certainly looks like we're going too fast, but I think this has all got to do with the potential SkyTrain coming to Langley. And as far as density goes, I think, you know, the main reason is the price of land. We certainly are densifying our neighborhoods. We're sort of no longer these 3-story walk-ups. They're 6 stories and maybe 10 stories. And it's the density that people are looking at, but it is all, in my opinion, because of the price of land. We just recently went through the official community plan, and it took a couple of years to go through that. And I think we have a good plan for the city. It's been mentioned before, the Nexus of Community is a very great document for our community. And along with that, hopefully we will bring some jobs to our community too. So are we going too fast? Yes and no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. We'll move on to our second of the question number 2. This is going to be going to Mike Sullivan, David Stiegel, Leith White, and then Therese Okamau. And it's coming from our crime and public safety questions. It was announced just earlier today that there have been 1,468 drug overdose deaths across the province so far this year up to the end of August. Given where we are in September, that number has probably crossed 1,500. Many are looking to cities for actions on helping to address this, and some are advocating for expanding access to safe consumption sites to reduce harm. Is this something that you would support being open in Langley City? And if not, what should we do about the overdose crisis on our streets? So this one's going over to Mike Sullivan first.
Right, so I'm not in favor of opening a safe injection site in Langley City. In economics, we talk about something called induced demand, which is if you build it, they will come. And so for that reason, I'm not in favor of it. What I'm in favor is harm reduction. So one of the things that one of the groups that I met with the past few weeks was some representatives from the Langley firefighters. The amount of calls that the firefighters have received that are purely for overdoses is through the roof. The amount of time required for them to dedicate towards helping somebody on a call really ties them up and doesn't give them the opportunity to do what you'd expect a firefighter to do, which is to fight fires. So just talking to them, the amount of overtime that they've had to put in due to the degree of short-staffedness is something to the tune of $400,000 or $500,000 this year alone. And so my commitment to public safety is to increase the amount of first responders we have in the city. The city doesn't have the ability to dictate how many more ambulances there are, how many doctors there are. That's all provincial. The Rcmp, that's federal. But the one thing that we do have control over as a city is the firefighters. And so I had a really good conversation with them, and I look forward to growing my relationship with them as we go forward. And that's why I was able to get their endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on this question over to David Stiegel. David?
So I was raised quite conservative, and I don't think that I was ever really a fan of safe injection sites as we see them. And it's been something where, I mean, even just with the previous question you asked me, what else have we tried? I would be willing, I think if elected, to look at a trial of maybe 6 months of something in Langley City, because I don't think a lot of what we're doing right now is working.
Okay. Thank you for that. And we'll move on this question over to Leith White.
I think, again, this comes down to approach. Langley City is developing a wider base of expertise and resources to service the whole issue of overdose and addiction. I don't think we're adequately utilizing those resources. I think the city needs to take a lead in addressing this issue. We can sit here and point at the provincial government, but we need to be leading. The city needs to be leading in this direction. Harm reduction and safe injection sites, bottom line, it saves lives. What it does in saving those lives is creates a greater time and opportunity for those individuals to access proper resources. The city needs to take a facilitating approach, a collaborative approach in working with the community, in establishing a network of relationship and expertise in all of those areas so that we can begin to adequately address the issue of overdose. It's increasing year after year. We have naloxone, it saves lives, but the issue is, why is it increasing? It's because people aren't adequately being able to access the existing resources that are there for them.
Thank you very much. And to finish off this question, we'll go to Charisse Okmon.
So I would really like to advocate for harm reduction. I don't want to comment on safe injection sites, as that's not my area of expertise, but I've seen women go in time and time again, and they go in, and each time they show up, they're showing up. And it might take one, it might take 30 times, but just having that opportunity for them to continue to be accepted. And we have all the tools. There's community resources everywhere. And you hit the nail on the head with communicating with everyone together to see how we can best work together and use the tools we already have, and those community groups like Vineyard Church, Ishtar. I know I've already said them already, but we have all the tools. It's the communication key that's missing. And I would agree with implementing a harm reduction strategy that would work across all our current platforms. Thank you.
We had several questions and comments from respondents mentioning the high cost of living and voicing concern with where property taxes will be going in the future. Last year's property tax increase was 4.35%, seeing single-family homes pay an average of $350 more in taxes over the year. What would you say to voters who are concerned about the cost of property taxes in the future and their affordability? Delaney, we'll start with you on this one.
I'm not a fan of property tax increases as we move forward. I don't feel that our community has really the extra resources right now, so I think that we need to find creative ways to generate revenue as opposed to taxing our residents. Whether that be supporting business and gaining revenue through license fees or permits. I would like to see that type of exploration, and as well, I think, again, we've had the same oversight for so long. I feel that it would be prudent to look at our budget and where we are having expenses and see if we can divert any funds to pay for upcoming projects that are needed as opposed to increasing taxes for individuals. So that's something that is a concern for me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And we'll move on this question to Councillor Gail Martin and then Councillor Paul Albrecht. Gail?
Yes, thank you very much. I actually voted against our tax increase this year, and it's probably the first time I've ever done that for all the years I've been on council. And there's a couple of reasons for that, given the situation that we're in with the cost of living going on. Unfortunately, that's the only way we can run the city is by property taxes. And nobody likes to raise the taxes. But you know, we talk about, there's several issues that we've talked about at this table tonight. And anytime we want to address any of these issues, it's going to cost money. And that means it's going to cost you and I and all the taxpayers of the city. So right now, this year, yes, I thought the taxes were too high. Hopefully in the future, we can keep them down. But every time we hire a staff member to look at something or do something, it costs us a lot of money.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. And Councillor Albrecht on this question.
Thank you for the question. And yeah, I would agree with Councillor Martin. None of us want to increase taxes. No one really wants to pay taxes. And we live in the community, so we pay those taxes that we live here. This isn't to justify what we're doing, but we're the lowest, we have the lowest tax rate out of all the entire Metro Vancouver region. So we're being fiscally responsible. We have service levels that people are expecting, our parks, our recreation facilities, our trails, our water, our roads. These all take dollars to maintain and carry on with. So these are really important aspects in running a community, like Councillor Martin said, and the staffing that goes along with that. We run an extremely lean organization. In fact, most employees are doing probably 2 to 3 jobs that other municipalities would be doing. So we are really, it's a struggle, because every dollar that we collect, we only get to use 60 cents. And 45% of that goes to their Rcmp. And yeah, it's like getting blood from a stone, and we don't like to do it, but it's something that has to happen. So, thank you.
This summer has been another record breaker for heat and drought. And the past year, we've seen heat domes, a record cold, and atmospheric rivers. How urgent an issue is climate change for you personally? And what policies would you like to see the city do to address climate change at the local level? So David?
Sure. So I ran 4 years ago. I actually was, one of the issues for me was the fact that the city and the car show parted ways. I was unhappy as a business owner. And one of the other issues was I noticed there was just things going on downtown, like we have these garbage cans downtown where we got people to separate their recyclables. So we get the bottles, we get the garbage, and the paper. And then I realized that they just throw it all away. It looks like we're recycling, but we're really not. And I campaigned on that 4 years ago when I ran, and they've changed nothing. It's still exactly the same. So I've always said, why don't we just put garbage cans out? Why are we pretending to recycle? And I think it's the overarching, people virtue signal, and I have no interest in that. I believe that we need to leave the planet a better place than we found it, and that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. On this question, we'll move next to Leith White.
I think this is very important for us to be planning for as a city. 2021, we experienced flooding conditions in November. Last year, summer, we had excessive heat of 40 degrees plus. Our response and our planning as a community has to be in the forefront when it comes to safety and when it comes to environmental planning to take care of these issues. Again, this is where I have to say I think the city hasn't done a spectacular job when it comes to planning in these areas, and this is why I think we need to take advantage of every available provincial grant that is made accessible to the municipalities. There is, so far over the last 2 years, from my calculations, when I look at the grants that are available from the UBCM, which comes from the provincial government, we've left close to $4.5 million on the table that we've not applied for, we've not accessed, and we've gotten nothing, from risk assessment for floodplains to heat assessments that are being done within the community and their impact. And I think instead of tax rates, what we need to do is make sure we're accessing that appropriate funding dollars and take advantage of it in every possible way.
Thank you for that. Next on this question, Charisse Okimo, over to you.
Thank you. Through working with hundreds of small businesses through the farmers market, one thing that I do know is that we have almost everything we need to sustain our community in our own backyard. From the agricultural land that we have here, our farmers, I know they're not in the city, but we have hundreds of small businesses, and so we need to advocate for those businesses in order to show the people that, and show our community that we don't need to go outside of our community. That could have one of the biggest impacts on keeping us sustainable, because we have everything and we have all the resources from our own citizens that have those small businesses. So the more that we can advocate for small business, especially in the agricultural side of things, which is something that hasn't really been mentioned, the more we can rely on our own community and not have to go outside. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Charisse. And to finish up this question, Mike Tulio.
All right, a few different things. So I missed the car show too. It was the first place I filmed about my favorite car, the 1973 Model 1. But as for, Langley's a car city. Langley's a car town. How do you move towards something that's carbon neutral in a city like this? There's a number of things you can do. First thing you can do, we have very easy development in this city. Developers have fastest turnaround anywhere in the Lower Mainland. We can require solar panels on the roofs. We can do something like that, something small. We can bring back tree cover. We used to have tree cover on Fraser Highway on the one-way. I was doing the arts, my wife and I were walking Arts Alive a few weeks back, and we were noticing the oppressive heat and sun. They cut down those trees, we can bring them back. Little things like that. But the bigger one, by far, I work on the SkyTrain line. I work at the New West campus. I work at the Coquitlam campus. I drive right now, and I say to myself that in 6 years, I'm going to be taking that SkyTrain. The thing is, if we don't implement it right, I will still drive, and I will be annoyed with myself. If it's more inconvenient to take the SkyTrain because it's not as safe, leaving my car somewhere, I can't find anywhere to put my car, or if I'm going to take my bike or a e-scooter or something, that I have the infrastructure to get there, will that be there, right? I want to make sure that that's the case. I want to be somebody who actually does take that and leaves my car at home, A, so I can save $80 on gas every week, and B, so that, I'm polluting less. Thanks.
Thank you for that. With that question, that wraps up our first round of these candidates. So can I ask everyone to please join me in a round of applause? Thank you all for being here. Awesome. Okay, we're moving on to our group 2 of candidates. So can I please ask Councillor Rosemary Wallace, Councillor Terry James, Shelley Coburn, Spurgeon Dillon, Jennifer Elderkin, Jack Jacobs, and Councillor Rudy Stortenboom. So please let us know who some of you are incumbents, and if you well know to the audience, and if you are running for the first time. So please take this 60 seconds to introduce yourself and who you are, why you're running, and share a little bit about yourself. So maybe this time we'll start right to left with Councillor Stortenboom. Rudy.
Thank you very much. I'd like to also thank the Greater Langley Chamber of Commerce and the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board for hosting. I am Rudy Stortenboom, and I'm running for re-election to Langley City Council. I'm born and raised in Lower Fraser Valley, and I've lived, loved, and volunteered in Langley City for almost 40 years. On council for three terms, and actively serving the community as a volunteer in various different capacities. I've been a part of all the big conversations and all the big changes that have made Langley City into what it is today. Our property taxes are low, our recreation and services are exceptional, and our local businesses are recovering from COVID. I think we're in pretty good shape. Currently, I serve on 10 city council committees, the Langley Volunteer Bureau, the Langley Lodge, the APSL, the Rotary Club of Langley, and the Metro Vancouver Housing Corporation, where we have 49 sites that house about 9,500 people who all pay less than market rent, and a third pay 30% income.
Thank you, Councilor Jordan. Moving across the table here, Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Albician. I am running for the first time for a seat on council. I moved to Langley when I got married in the early 2000s, so this is the place that I chose to raise my family. I have volunteered on a city committee, Parks and Recreation or Parks and Environment in the past on 2 different occasions. So I did get to know quite a few of the current council members through that. I have spent more time recently volunteering with my children's school. I have 3 kids in the Langley School District, so I've been actively involved in volunteering with their schools over the past number of years. And I wanted to get back involved more in the community again now that my kids are getting a bit older. So that's why I've decided to take a run at council this time. I think the experience that I have in work and volunteering and other life experiences will lend itself well. I have worked for 2 different municipalities, so that's kind of the thing that I think I will bring to the council table if elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll move to Jeff Jacobs.
Hello everyone. My name is Jeff Jacobs. I am running for a spot on Langley City Council. I ran in 2018 and here we are in 22. Langley's been my home for 43 years. I've seen our community grow and become an integral part of the Lower Mainland. Currently serving 19 years as a frontline municipal worker, 4 years as a council president for 69 unit strata building in the Langley City area, 3 years as an executive member of QP Local 403, and 2 years as provincial council delegate for our Langley City MLA Andrew Mercer's executive. This experience, combined with a strong belief in transparency, accountability, progressive and meaningful decision-making, would strengthen our city council. Affordability, homelessness, and expanding transit infrastructure and a growing population are top of mind with our citizens. Our city needs someone that genuinely listens, works with the public, staff, and council, as well as the provincial and federal government. The time is now. The choice is yours, Langley City. Let me be your voice.
Thank you, Jeff.
Come together. Thanks.
And we'll move to Gurjit Dillon. Gurjit.
Hi. My name is Gurjit Dillon. I've been living in Langley for the last 40 years. I raised my family here. All of my 4 kids born in Langley Memorial Hospital. I used to work in a mill in Fort Langley. I worked there for 20 years. I know a little bit about this city. Looking at the situation in hand right now, it is going downhill. So what we have to do? We have to change the landscape. When you're going to change the landscape, you do pruning, you get rid of the dead wood, and let the new shoots come and prosper. That's what I will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurjit. And we'll move down to Shelby Coburn. Shelby.
I really got to adjust this. Hi, my name is Shelby Coburn, and I'm running for the position of councillor. It's good to see you all in person, and thank you for coming, and thanks for everybody who put this on. The effort's appreciated. For the last 8 years, I've had the privilege of serving as a trustee and being elected to serve in the place where I was born. In the community I grew up in the city I call home, is an honor, and it has prepared me to take on the challenges we are facing at this critical point in our development. These challenges include homelessness, public safety, mobility, and there's lots of detail that goes into all of that. We have to make sure we do it right. I currently work as a program coordinator with Lower Fraser Valley Aboriginal Society, and my background includes government relations, property development, and not-for-profits. And with the cost of living being what it is, coming from not-for-profits and public education and being a single parent, I know how to do more for less, and I'll be looking for greater efficiencies with your tax dollars. I'm a proud mother of 2 grown sons, and I love this little city. And right now, we have an opportunity to prepare for the future.
Thank you very much. We'll move to Councillor Terry James.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for hanging out for round 2. I'm Councillor Terry James, and I'm running for re-election in Langley City, and you'll be hearing more about my policies and procedures and what I'd like to see done in the question. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. My husband, myself, and my 4 kids moved here in 2000, And we looked at a lot of other communities, we came to Langley City, and we fell in love. And we're so lucky because the city fell in love back with us. In 2001, I got hired as the executive director for the Downtown Langley Business Association, and I've been doing that simultaneously with my 13 years on City Council, and the synergy is incredible, and a lot gets done. So I'm looking for your support again, and I am happy to see a lot of familiar faces that I've already seen this afternoon. One thing that I will mention is that this city is everything to a lot of people, and neighborhoods are passionate. I get that, and I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James, and Councillor Rosemary Wallace.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you to the Chamber and Fraser Valley Real Estate Board for hosting this. I'm running for re-election. I have served 3 terms on City Council, and between the second and third term, I served as a Langley School trustee. My passion is for building and strengthening community. I believe in people, and I believe in connection, and I believe it's important that people feel like they belong where they live. I am passionate about climate change, meaningful reconciliation with First Nations. We need to relook at how we do health and how we look after each other, how we look after people, how we look after those that are vulnerable. We need to work together. I'm a mother of 7, a grandmother of 5, and all my children went to Langley City High School, so glad to be here. Thank you.
As part of the city's transportation plan update, changes to how cars get around and park in Langley City are being considered, including changes to roadways and lanes, changes to street parking, in addition to bike lanes. But there's only so much real estate to go around, so as the city densifies in preparation for SkyTrain, what do you think is the right mix between ensuring parking and roads for cars, as well as options for bikes, walking, and other modes of transportation? Councillor Wallace?
Wow, that's a big question.
90 seconds.
Transportation. Well, first of all, in order to fight climate change, we need to get cars off the road. That's number 1. But at the same time, the SkyTrain isn't arriving until 2028. So what do we do in the meantime as we develop? And I think that's the concern. I think we have to look at other opportunities for rideshare. We need to start carpooling. We need to get cars off the road, but at the same time, we need to be strategic in how we create our connections with bike lanes and so on. So I think it's up to developers as well to engage in that conversation when it comes to transportation and infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. I'll move to Councillor Tori James with this question.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great question. So you asked about the right mix of parking, people, bikes, and modes of transportation, and I think that's actually what we're trying to do with our transportation plan right now. We've never had more developers knocking at our door asking to be part of the change that's happening in Langley City, and I have every reason to believe it is because of SkyTrain. So the right mix for me is enough parking for the people that have to drive, because there's no way that we're going to be a community where people don't drive. People and bikes, I'd love to see way more people ride those bikes. Right now, our lanes are, sorely underused, but in order to have roadways and bike lanes, or roadways funded, you have to incorporate bike lanes into them. And we love that idea, and we can't wait to see more people use the bike lanes. Modes of transportation, I just met with the CEO of TransLink, and I asked him that question, what's going to happen when SkyTrain comes? And he said, more buses to and from, because we can't be relying on that congestion of parking in and around our terminus. So he's guaranteeing more modes of transportation, which includes buses, end of the road rides, which I call Uber, and bike lockups and scooter lockups, and all the things that everybody's going to need in order to take advantage of getting out of their cars and getting into public transportation. So we have a ways to go, but I know we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. And we'll move to Shelley Coburn.
You can answer.
Oh, no.
Okay. You go ahead. Yeah, that's a big question. So with the SkyTrain not coming for a few years, we have some ample time to prepare and plan. And that's really important with anything you do. So a big part of planning is consultation. So the question is, how do you get the right mix? Well, you consult the people who live in the community because they represent who's actually here and they're going to be reflecting that mix. So the right mix is something that serves everybody in the community, like Councillor Terry James already said, which is some people drive, some people bus, some people bike. One thing that really needs to happen is more local busing within our community to get us to the places where we need to go. You know, I have a son who works on 200th Street and Willowbrook Drive, and he can't get a bus home to Brookswood past 10 o'clock at night. So that's not encouraging us getting out of our cars, and that's not encouraging us to look for other modes of transportation. And when we do get to these stations, like Langley City Bus Loop, where are we going to put our bikes? Because I'm not really comfortable putting my bike there. So I ride my bike to work. Where am I going to lock it up? So these are simple considerations that if we implement them, we might see an increase of people getting out and utilizing our bike lanes instead of getting in their cars. But if we can't make it convenient to the user's not going to use it, and then we're just going to hear people complaining about our empty bike lanes forever. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll finish this question off with Gurjit Dylan. Gurjit.
Yes. I have experience in manufacturing, in production, so I know the bottlenecks, how to take care of them. There's a lot of bottlenecks. Then we can sort it out. Easy flow, less idle. There'll be more spaces. We should provide more bikes through city and limited lanes because we are not utilizing all the space that is there. The rest I will leave it up to the council. They've been fiddling around for this with maybe 15 years, so they should sort it out. I donate my time to next councillor. Thank you.
We saw the province just recently released their report on prolific and repeat offenders. The Chamber has heard from a number of businesses who are frustrated with people stealing, vandalizing, or otherwise causing issues with their business, only to see the same people back again the next day or the next week. What responsibility does the city have for addressing criminal activities on our streets, and how would you work with the RCMP to achieve results? Jennifer.
Hi. I think for this question, the first thing that comes to mind is a recent council meeting that I was watching, because I've been trying to follow along and catch up since I decided to enter this race. And I know one of the things on the table is about increasing our police presence, increasing the number of police officers that we have for the community. So I think that's definitely something that the new council will need to be looking at. It will be something that will be coming to the new council for voting. I think it's 6 members that has been put forward. So I think that's one avenue. Definitely that will help us to address the crime problem, repeat offenders and stealing and vandalizing within our community. I think the other part of it is, I think there used to be a program that was more of a citizen-based crime prevention program that I don't think is operating anymore, so that might be something that the new council can look at reinstating, more of a crime watch kind of by the citizens so that we can report to the officers that are working so that we can best utilize their time by, again, working as a community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jeff Jacobs, over to you for this question.
Hi, everyone. Just working?
Yep.
Yeah, so obviously crime and safety, huge issues. It's probably that and homelessness are probably the number 2 issues, not just in Langley City, but everywhere all over the Lower Mainland, and I mean, let's face it, all over North America. I think first off, we need to be allowing, giving the police officers and bylaw officers something to work with. Our province has not been, our whole system of just, revolving doors, not holding people accountable for their actions, is not working, has not worked, and if we continue to do the same thing, things are only going to get worse. Going off of what Jennifer said as well, moving ahead with a block watch. I know when I was growing up in Langley City, we did have a block watch system. It's by no means perfect or meaning to replace what the police and bylaw officers do, but it is very helpful in tackling a lot of these issues. So I myself being someone that's part of our local MLA's executive, I would just take that time to take those issues to the province and get the province to be doing more work that would not only help our community, but every community in BC. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jeff Jacobs. And got your next question, Councillor Rudy Storton.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I know crime and safety is top of mind for a lot of our citizens, and public safety is always a top concern for your Langley City Council. I can tell you that I'm frustrated by the prolific offenders as well. I think this is a problem with the courts. I've actually discovered that prolific offenders sentencing is diminished over time rather than increasing. So I'd like to hold the courts to account for this. I know the police are very frustrated by the prolific and repeat offenders as well, because they're forever chasing the same bad guys around the same block. I propose that when SkyTrain comes, that we establish a substation, a precinct around the SkyTrain to work in partnership with the transit police to be sure that that area is especially safe. I'd also like to introduce a community court. It's something that works in Vancouver, and I think that we could even offer up our Langley City Council chambers to this kind of an initiative where, you know, the victims of these petty crimes can actually see social justice being dispensed right in front of them with those offenders being identified for the community to see. I support Councillor Nathan Hall's proposal that we have a citizens forum to invite our Langley City residents and professionals to connect with our departments after COVID. We need to reconnect. We need to get back together again, talk about what makes our streets safe and how we can make it better for quality of life for the City of Langley residents. Thank you.
In a little bit of background, in response to long approval and permitting times for residential and commercial developments across the province, the BC government has published roadmaps and timelines for addressing development timelines for the development approvals process review. How would you rate the approval speed in the City of Langley, and what actions would you support, if any, are needed to speed up approvals and developments to make sure that we're building the small businesses, jobs, and housing that we need in the city? So that was going to Shelley Goldberg first, then Councillor James, Gurjeet, Dylan, and Councillor Wallace.
That's a big question. Honestly, I've been on it was at one point called the APC, and now it's called something else, but it's an advisory panel commission, right, so for development. And really, of all of the things that people complain about within the city, development and permit times isn't one of it. And in fact, I believe people would argue that we actually do it too quickly. Which I'm not suggesting we are, but I think if we're looking at improving our city, I don't know if that really necessarily is a priority for me, quite honestly, because I think our resources could be better used elsewhere, because I do think in some neighborhoods especially, we might want to consider slowing down development, particularly in the Nipalmackle area, being that that school there is already to capacity. So I think it's more important that we look at our infrastructure and if we are matching the pace of our development so that we don't see ourselves in a predicament similar to, say, our neighbor, the township, where their infrastructure can't support the pace of their development, yet they still say they want faster development. So fast development is one thing, but if you don't have the measures in place to handle that, then that's going to leave you in a position where you're reactive. So I'm preferring a more proactive approach, and really, I don't necessarily see this as a problem, and I could be wrong, and if I am, I hope to hear from everyone.
Thank you very much. Councillor James.
Thank you very much. Just a little bit of back history. 5 to 8 years ago, Langley City wasn't a coveted place to develop. We got a development every few months. So we really didn't have to consider all of these things that we're having to consider right now. So fast forward, and for the last 4 years, our development requests have been coming in like wildfire, almost faster than we can manage. But I say almost, because Langley City has the fastest approval speed in the Lower Mainland. Now that doesn't mean that they're not dotting the I's and crossing the T's. That just means that we are a small, lean machine that gets the job done. But having said that, to Mr. Redekop's question, the recent seminar that I attended with regards to streamlining the process. One thing I don't agree with is they suggested removing public hearings. And in fact, I would go one further and say, not only should we not remove the public hearings, but with this rapid development that we're experiencing, we should increase our community consultation by a long shot. If there's a different development type that's going into someone's community or a neighborhood's community, shouldn't be a piece of paper on your door saying, hey, we're having a meeting, come join us. There should be several opportunities for you to join, several opportunities for you to weigh in, because the fact is, folks, with redevelopment coming, there are going to be changes in neighborhoods. It's about doing it responsibly and making sure that you're heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Gurjeet Dhillon.
I think there is no need to expedite that. We don't want to compromise the safety. So having said that, whatever is happening, there's a reason for that, and there's a demand, and for the demand, we have to keep it up. So the process, like Councillor already told us, this is more efficient. I think we should stick with that. The other thing that we can do is maybe look into the other infrastructures that need to be built before we put multi-buildings. Like for instance, there are single family homes getting demolished, and then they're putting up 93 units in on one and then times 3 it. But we have only one old school. And the teacher is also almost at the age of retirement. They're not hiring no more teachers, but that's a different issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll finish this question off with Councillor Wallace.
Thank you for the question. Like Councillor James, I don't agree with taking away the public hearings. I think public consultation is very important as we continue to grow, and development is rapid in the city. And is it a good thing? Maybe yes in some aspects, but I mean, I think there's a lot of questions to ask on the developers on do they buy into the vision of Langley and what we are. I think that's really important. What is the city about and what is represented here? Advisory design panel, I think we're pretty fortunate to have an advisory design panel made up of expertise on that design panel, so that helps process and it helps to ask the questions that need to be asked. I'd like to, I don't know, it's so hard when we say, is it going too fast? And then there's so many people in need of a home. I think we need to look at development and offering affordable housing. And I think that's a big, big question that we say. If it's moving that fast and we have that many people needing homes, let's look at the development and the cost of that development. Thank you.
Quite a lot of questions on this topic, and so I'll kind of summarize them here. The city's current zoning makes cannabis retail stores problematic, despite having been legalized for years now. I understand this is being considered as part of the city zoning bylaw update, but how would you, as a councillor if you're elected, like to see this resolved? Should the bylaws be changed to allow cannabis stores in Langley City, as they are in most other communities?
Yeah, I'm okay with cannabis stores coming to town. I'm just not sure where they should be. I've seen a few business plans, and I've talked to some people who are interested. Right now, we do have it available for these stores to open by Willowbrook Mall, but I guess the rents are just too high there. It's an interesting industry. It was thought to be, something that was going to help bail out our national debt, but it hasn't proven to be that. In fact, there's a lot of businesses that aren't doing all that well with it. So I think it's really important that we see a good business plan. And quite honestly, the business plan I've seen, they've been really thin. So I'd be reluctant to move forward on just somebody say so. I want to see what it takes, because I think that a business like that can really set the tone for a community. There are some communities that have 2 and 3 in a row, and it takes away from the rest of the shopping experience, because it's just that concentrated area that draws that particular clientele. So yeah, I'm open to the idea. Show us a good business plan and we'll work something out. I wouldn't mind if it was something like the casino, where we actually get a bit of the proceeds from the sale, but that might be another conversation for another day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll move on to Jeff Jacobs and then Jennifer Elbert on this question. Jeff?
Hi, everyone. I don't know if we go back a few years when cannabis was legalized in our country. I think everyone probably in this building in the entire province was thinking, this will go well, especially in BC. We pretty much have everything set up. It's just like, here we go, let's get going with this. And then we find that British Columbia is one of the slowest provinces to actually get that going. And Langley City is definitely behind the times when it comes to moving ahead with cannabis stores. I work for the township, and you know, there are a few around the township, but definitely think that Langley City needs to have stores that have people who have access to cannabis and the professionals that work there, and said, because in the meantime, every day that passes that we don't have them, well, either business is going out of our town or just going into the black market. So we need to move ahead with that, and if I get elected on council, I would make every effort to get that done as soon as possible.
Thank you, Jeff. And Jennifer Hilderkin.
Hi. I think they've touched on this a fair bit. What I will want to add is that, yes, because it is legalized, it is something that I would support. However, I know some of the challenges that some of the schools have had with the location of vape stores, and so that would also be a concern of mine. So I think it's important that to put something forward that it is very regulated, that we do really look at location and limit location proximity to schools where kids might try to access it underage, because I think it is important that we put those measures in place to protect our children. And it's one of those things where I feel that because it is legalized, those businesses should have the opportunity to set up shop in our city, and it will be the citizens of the city that will determine whether that business succeeds or fails, you know, based on demand. So I would support it.
One of the things the pandemic demonstrated was how vital outdoor recreation, parks, and green spaces are to our community. But across the region, many of those green spaces were overloaded with users looking to get outside during the pandemic. How would you rate the City of Langley's park system currently, and what would you advocate for at the council table to improve our parks, trails, and recreation network?
Sorry, Corey, I don't mean to. Can you just repeat the very last part of that question?
How would you rate our park system currently, and what would you advocate for at the council table to improve our parks and trails network?
Thank you very much. So, I think, are very fortunate in Langley City. I was not on council. I took a little bit of a sabbatical when my grandkids were being born and didn't run. That was the year that the existing council, or the council a day, just knocked it out of the park with the parks and trails in our community. They put so much effort and time, so kudos to them, and I genuinely mean that. Now the challenge is maintaining them, and we're finding with the heat dome, we've got neighborhoods where the larger trees are struggling and suffering. We just can't keep up with the maintenance and the watering and things like that. So I think what we need to do in terms of looking for ways to improve on our parks and trails is maybe seek out grant opportunities, consulting with the community. Maybe people know of opportunities, maybe looking at irrigation in our parks, so it takes the burden off some of our employees, because I don't know if you've seen downtown Langley in the community in the summer, but it's like, it looks absolutely breathtaking. So they are busy, but I think there's some conveniences that we can maybe source out financial assistance with, so we can take some of the burden off the maintenance of our parks and trails, because for real, if we want to keep them looking as beautiful as we do, we've got to think of other ways and strategize on how to maintain them. And yeah, I guess that's probably all I wanted to contribute at this point. I could go on and on about recreation and how amazing that is and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, I think we live in a beautiful city with beautiful trails and parks, and hats off to our staff. They do a fabulous job.
Thank you, Councillor James. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you so much for the question. And I think when we talk about COVID and talk about our mental health, I think we had a gift in our trail network and our parks in the city. I know for me, it helped my mental health. Langley City's 4 square miles. We have 5 community gardens within that 4 square miles. Another attribute to our city, and the food security piece. For me, as far as, kudos to the council before I took a little bit of leave and was a school trustee, and what they did as far as our parks, and just watching how our parks are being used compared to what they were used even 10 years ago. They are very, very busy places. As far as protecting our Nicomeco floodplain, I think it's crucial that we protect that ecosystem. That is a treasure, and it's a learning opportunity for everybody, and I think it's a jewel that we need to maintain and keep. As far as our trees, I think we have significant trees that we need to be protecting. So if I get reelected, those are the things that I would like to look at: our tree protection bylaw, our natural ecosystems, and just maintaining beautiful green space and adding green space to our redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shelley Coburn, we'll move to you on this question.
So I can't lie, like I have nothing to complain about. I'm going to be really honest here. I brag about Langley's trail system. People come and I take them all the way through it. And I say, you can get from one side of the city to the other without getting on the road. I live in the Crown Jewel City Park, as far as I'm concerned. I live in a green space. I loved going out in the pandemic and seeing people in Douglas Park. It was like 1982 all over. People were having picnics and chips, and I was like, look, isn't this wholesome? The city has done a spectacular job of maintaining those parks. I know that there's some concerns about safety with some of our homeless friends living in the park, but I do also know that we have a wonderful integrated network of service providers that you can call up and they will come and assist that person. To what Councillor Terry James said, grants. And my background is in not-for-profits and I lean heavily on grants. So let's get creative and let's look for some grants and really lean into our partnership with LEPS. Even consider the school district with some joint projects while I was on the board. I really was interested in an outdoor school space for the city residents because we have it in the township. And I think that if we get creative and we look at our partnerships and where we have overlap and we utilize that and we create greater efficiencies is when we're going to be able to do the things like the maintenance of our beautiful park system. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll wrap this question up with Gurjit Dillon.
I will give 10 out of 10. I use those trails a lot. I even do my camping there with a sign on my neck and walking around, and it is a nice way to meet people and to talk to them. The only one thing that I can add on that is that, like Councillor said, to protect trees, we should be protecting them plus adding them more. They are great CO2 capturing machine. And the thinning, when we do the thinning of it, I think they are doing an excellent job. The environment team, and I love my city. On this one, I give 10 out of 10.
Despite the new OCP, there's going to be tremendous redevelopment pressure on commercial, employment, and industrial lands as SkyTrain moves in, especially considering the proximity some of those lands will have to the transit system. What is your view of the importance of Langley City's industrial land for job creation, and how should it or should it not be developed in the coming years? Jeff James.
Yeah, so Langley City is fortunate to have, I mean, we're a small community, but we're fortunate to have a nice bit of land that is set for industrial. Being someone that's grown up, my dad and his brothers had a machine shop for over 40 years, and I worked there for many years of my teen years and into my 20s, and so I understand the importance of having industrial land, and especially close to home. We want to be promoting good paying jobs in our community, and the trades are a good way for people to be making a living and not having to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours like I was spending driving to Tilbury Estates 20 years ago to get to and from your job. So I mean, I fully support keeping the industrial spaces that we do have, because once they're gone, they are gone. You can't bring them back. Yeah, that's my feelings on the topic, and thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. On to you for this question.
Yeah, I think with bringing the SkyTrain in and the close proximity to those industrial and commercial properties. I think it is important to retain kind of how the township protects farmland. I think the city really needs to protect the commercial and industrial land that we have. I think when we look at redevelopment in and around that area, some of the things we should be looking at is some of the mixed zone use so that we can have some commercial with residential mixed in. I think that would be a benefit to our community. And then, again, just having the variety of jobs that the industrial and commercial brings to our community is important so that our residents can find a place no matter what sector they work in to live, work in their home community without having to travel.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Rudy Sortenberg, if you can finish off on this question.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Langley City is a fully developed regional town center. We've got a little bit of everything going on in our community. And the industrial land that we have is as precious as agricultural land is to the region. I support the initiative to look at our nexus of community strategy to introduce initiatives around redeveloping in the area. I'm particularly excited about the fact that we have a development corporation. The Langley City Development Corporation has been dormant for a long time now. But with SkyTrain, I think it offers an opportunity to work with the development partners to build new housing, commercial, real estate opportunities around SkyTrain for the hub that we want to be there. And I think that the city could actually generate revenue from that, which would be great for offsetting property taxes and keep our taxes low. So I think SkyTrain offers a world of opportunity, but we have to see the opportunity for what it is. And preserving our industrial land is a big part of it. I'd like to see robotics and manufacturing take over some of those areas. And good job for engineers and the like, as well as worker bees close to home. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for your responses to that question and for all those questions. That wraps up this group of candidates, so I want to again ask you please to join me in a round of applause. So with fewer mayoral candidates, our format's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to ask each of you to provide a brief 1.5-minute opening comments. We have our timer here to introduce yourselves to the audience. I will then move on to our questions, which I will pose to both of you, but in alternating order, and which you'll have up to 2 minutes to respond. And at the end, we're going to ask you for a brief closing statement. My colleague Grace has the timing here. You can see the time. Well, again, a reminder, you'll see the yellow card at 15 seconds and the red card when your time is up, and I will be moving on. So, introductions. Can we start with our up to 90 seconds here for share a little bit about who you are, your background and experience, and why you're running to serve as mayor. And we'll start Mayor Val Vandenberg. Do you want to start us off?
Great, thank you. I got to start last time this afternoon on the other debate as well. It's kind of weird. Anyway, well, good evening, everyone. I am Val Vandenbroek, and I am the current mayor, and I'm running for re-election. Yesterday, actually, I just celebrated my 19th wedding anniversary to my wonderful husband, Rob, who's been with BC Hydro for 35 years. I'm on a leave without pay from the Rcmp. I've been working for the Rcmp as a federal public servant for over 20 years. I was the city employee for 8 years. I used to run the community police office. From there, I had to quit that job because it was a conflict of interest for me to work for the city and run for council. So I took a job with corrections, federal corrections, flipped over to that, and then went back to the Rcmp. So now I'm on leave without pay from the Rcmp for 4 years, and I will continue to do that again if I am voted in as mayor. I believe a mayor should be in that position 24/7, 365 days a year, working for you, because that's what we're paid to do. I love Langley City. It's a great community. It's a great place to live. I worked hard. You voted me in last time. I proved myself. Results and experience. I got SkyTrain in less than 2 years during a pandemic. So please vote for me October 15th.
Thank you, Mayor Val. And Councillor Nathan Cobb.
Thank you very much.
And I'm running for mayor, and you're probably wondering what experience I can bring to the table. So I've been on council for about 2 terms, and I think over that time I've built some really strong relationships with our nonprofit sector, current council, the province, and our federal partners. And that's really key, I think, when you're running for mayor. Currently, I'm a senior manager of operations for Staples US Retail, and I work in the technical side. So I have to deal with developers. I don't know if anybody works in software, but those are folks where you really need to act as a coach and a facilitator. Your job is to bring out the best in people. So as mayor, with the skills that I've learned for the 15 plus years I've been working in this industry, I think I can bring out the best in both anybody who's running for council, looking at all the ideas that people bring to the table, figuring out where as a council we can move forward together in a positive way. Another thing that's important to me is community safety. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more through this discussion, and I look forward to sharing a bit more of my vision. So I really do think that we can do the best and the most good work in our community when we're working together in unison, and that's what I hope to bring as mayor of Langley City.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you both being here. We'll move into our questions now. So we're going to set the timer for up to 2 minutes you have for each question. The first question is coming from Crime and Public Safety, and it will be going to Councillor Kakal and then Mayor Vandenbroek, in that order. The number 1 topic of questions and comments we receive was public safety. Maybe not surprisingly. We saw the province just recently released a report on prolific offenders in response to criticism from local government. Many residents are frustrated with the persistent challenge of homelessness and street-level crime, and are concerned about how the SkyTrain may exacerbate this. You both have ideas and plans on your site, so I'm hoping we can take this time for you to share your views on how we tackle these issues, and what would you bring differently to this term should you be elected or re-elected as mayor. Councillor?
Thank you very much. So I think in the first term of council, I sort of said, well, you know, if we had this one plan or this one program, maybe we could make a meaningful impact. I've learned over the years that we really need to take a holistic approach. So, you know, adding one thing isn't going to solve the issue. If it did, we would have solved that many years ago. So just having a lot of conversations in the last year with other politicians in different municipalities, nonprofit sector, police, fire, I've decided that we need to have something called a citizens assembly, and that's bringing together a cross-section of our residents that represents the demographics of our community, our first responders, experts, and looking holistically at how we approach things in our community. So I'll give you an example. Right now, you know, there's vandalism in a washroom, for example. The city's response, which is an engineering response, is to replace the toilet. It gets smashed again, we replace the toilet. Nothing really improves. People don't feel safe when they go to the parks because that's a set-type crime prevention to environmental design issue. Negative downward spiral. So if we have the Citizens Assembly looking across police, fire, engineering requests, they'll say, hey, maybe a better approach might be, and I'm not suggesting this is the approach. It could be, okay, well, we only do washroom cleaning 1 time a day. Maybe we increase that. Maybe we also look at, say, like park rangers, which are basically bylaw officers. There's different names of that. They're going to be in our parks, our busy ones like Linwood. And now we're starting to talk about a holistic approach. So there's people in our parks that have a uniform. They're looking out for the benefit of our residents. They're keeping an eye on the washrooms. We've increased the cleaning schedule. Very positive solution there. So things like that, a fresh perspective.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mayor Vandenbroek.
Okay, sorry, this is my specialty, so I'm going to try to keep this short and get in as much information as I can. The problem with prolific offenders is we don't have enough judges, lawyers, and such in the system. Somebody gets arrested, they might have 20 charges that the Rcmp will put forward to Crown, and only one of those charges will stick. Working in community corrections, our corrections areas are empty. We are not doing anything to fill them. We're actually bringing in people from other provinces to fill the spots and make the money. So things have to change in that regard. Citizens Assembly is great. Not that I don't disagree with it, but we already have forums that we've been doing for many, many years. Every year we go to each community and talk to the people in each community and address their issues. One of the things we are missing is a crime prevention society which we used to have, of which I used to be the vice chair many, many years ago. That's going to address your issues, which it did before. Unfortunately, it folded because we didn't have volunteers. What I'm seeing in this crowd is there's many volunteers that want to do many things, so I think we could reenact it. And with that goes Crime Watch, Block Watch, all the crime prevention programs that I used to do when I ran the community police office as the coordinator. When I left that position went to a township employee, and we no longer have control over that position. We should have control over that position, and we should be working with that person to address our issues which are going on in our downtown core. The other thing is, we should have community safety officers, which are a hybrid between a mental health act person and a peace officer. A park ranger isn't going to do any good, and it's not going to solve any problems. It's a bylaw officer.
Thank you very much, Mayor Vandenbroek. The city recently redid its official community plan, which will guide development for the coming years. But even with that plan, there's going to be debate as to the speed of redevelopment, the most appropriate forms of housing, towers, mixed use, townhomes in certain areas. What is your general perspective on how dense Langley City should become, and how can it do so while avoiding importing some of the development-related challenges from neighboring communities, such as traffic and infrastructure deficits? So this one we're going to Mayor Vandenbroek first.
Great, thank you. I think it's important, and especially with our traffic issues, that's why getting SkyTrain is so important. And running that line along the SLS line, along from Langley to Surrey, we are going to have our transit-orientated development. So we're going to have thousands of people living along that line. And if we can get those people out of their cars and onto a SkyTrain line, we will have thousands of people that will not have to use a car. That's huge. Sorry, can you repeat the second part of that question, or the first part?
Yeah, so the question is, the city recently redid its official community plan, which will guide development. What is your general perspective on how dense Langley City should become, and how can it avoid importing some of the challenges from development, like traffic and infrastructure deficits that we've seen in neighboring communities?
Okay, so that is one way. We'll get rid of, and we're running the bus lines, like Councillor James was saying earlier. That's one thing we did on the Mayor's Council through TransLink. I was an integral part for the last 4 years redoing Transportation 2050 and Climate Action, or Climate 2050 as well with Metro Vancouver. And it's very important to get people out of their cars and offer other transportations. We were instrumental in bringing in Uber to the province, and we were adamant that it had to be done in a regional way. There are things we can do to make things better, but we have to work with Metro Vancouver, UBCM, FCM, all the other regional programs, committees, and boards that are available. We cannot do it on our own. And that's the reality. You know, we have to educate people. We have to work with our school systems, teach our kids, you know, to take a bike to school instead of taking the bus. So we all have to do it together, and we have to plan it properly. I'll leave it at that. Sorry. I see in my...
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. Councillor Katai.
Thank you very much. And we definitely don't want to repeat the mistakes of other municipalities, and that's why in our new official community plan, we focused our density around the 2 SkyTrain stations. And in fact, our highest density is going to be around Willowbrook Mall, which is called the Golden Triangle. It's because of the shape of it. But again, we want to make sure that the highest density is within easy walking distance of SkyTrain. Our city is only 10 square kilometers, so you can have an easy walk from one end of town to the other, east-west, in about 20 minutes. I know, I don't own a car. So when we're again focusing that density, it's going to be north of the river. Building out our cycling infrastructure is really important. We recently received a grant from TransLink to expand the cycling network into the Bryden area and also connect the bike lanes between 203rd and Glover Road. We're going to get buses eventually along 200th Street and 208th Street, and the city does have a plan to build multifamily, which would be townhouses along 200th and 208th. Now, knowing that that could be a concern, and we heard that clearly from residents in the Upland neighborhood,
I put forward a moratorium that said we don't want to see development basically south of around 50th Avenue until we've had time to consult with residents in the area to make sure that we're getting it right with parking, with the setbacks between the townhouses and the single-family homes that will be there for many years to come. So I think the approach is, let's focus on the north, let's build our density close to SkyTrain, connect it up with cycling, and then once that's done, we can start looking south as TransLink starts to plan out bus rapid transit along 200th and 208th in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to question number 3 in this round here. It'll be going to Councillor McCollum and Mayor Vandenbroek in that order, and it's from our governing and leadership category. We had a number of questions and comments about the tone and tenor of City Council over this past term and the related controversies and allegations. Without getting into those specifically, the fact remains that on October 15th, one of you will be elected mayor and will be serving with and leading a diverse council with members who you may or may not agree with. How do you plan on working and collaborating with council to advance solutions for Langley City's residents?
Thank you very much. So like I said, I'm Senior Manager of Operations. So I don't necessarily get to choose the people that I work with, and I definitely deal with a variety of different folks in my job. I think I can bring that skill over to council. Everybody has a different viewpoint because they are elected from this community and they all represent valid views from the community, and I take that seriously. So some of the simple things that we can do to get started on the right foot is, if I'm elected as mayor, the first thing we're going to do is sit down. We're going to have an off-site discussion on what is important to each and every councillor that got elected, put that on the board, plan it out, figure out where there's consensus, and then we're going to move forward on the things where we have consensus on. That's a really important thing. One of the things that I do as a manager is called a one-on-one. It's pretty basic, so you spend a time each week with every member of your staff, figuring out what's on their mind. It's really an opportunity for them to have a chat with you. I think as a mayor, that's an approach I would like to take as well, meeting with every individual councillor to see what's on their mind, check in, make sure that they're feeling part of the process. So again, keep it simple. My skills as a manager in the private sector, I think I can port over as mayor for Langley City.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Vandenbroek?
Can you just repeat the question, please?
I sure can, yes. We had a number of questions and comments about the tone and tenor of City Council over this past term and the related controversies. Without getting into those specifically, the fact remains that on October 15th, one of you will be elected mayor and will be serving with and leading a diverse council with members who you may or may not agree with. How do you plan on working and collaborating with council so that you can advance solutions for Langley City residents?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a great question. And that's one of the reasons why I've chosen to support some new candidates that are running with me, which are on my brochure. There's 4 of them here. I am going to say that right off the bat. It has been a challenging 4 years, I will not lie. But I did get SkyTrain. I fulfilled all my campaign promises. I've got I've built tons of partnerships and friendships, and which is why I got SkyTrain. What I can say is, I will continue to work with this council. I have tried, and I have tried. And when you send out emails and you get no replies from anyone and people won't speak to you, it's a little frustrating. But I kept going and kept going and kept going. And here I am. I attended every council and I kept working hard for everyone. And I will continue to do that. I have been constantly on the defensive with this council. I've had numerous accusations and reviews thrown at me, and they've all shown that I've done absolutely nothing wrong, and yet this council continues to call me a thief and a stealer. And all I have asked for is an apology. And council meeting was canceled, and they don't want to deal with it. So I am more than willing. I have done everything in my power to move forward and work with anyone. I work with the Rcmp, I work with criminals. I've worked with numerous people over the years, and those that know me know I'm up front. I say it how it is, And that's who I am. And I don't apologize for that, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. Moving on to question 4. This one will be going to Mayor Vandenbroek first, and then Councillor McCall, and it's in taxes, budgets, and business category. We touched on this earlier tonight. You were both on council last year and had to vote for the 2022 fiscal plan and the 4.35% increase in property taxes. We both had a vote on that. I won't say how you voted. With cost of living top of mind for many Langley voters, can you share how you will approach budgeting and taxes in the future as mayor? And how will you balance ensuring we have the resources we need to get the things done that we want without exacerbating the affordability challenges some of our families are facing? So, Mayor Vandenbroek.
So this is what I've been challenging since day one with this council. The first year, what I was hearing around the table was talk such as, let's tax them high in the first year so they'll forget about it in the fourth. That is totally unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. And it has continued, and I voted against that tax increase. This latest one is just another example of not following staff recommendations and going outside the box and hiring an environmentalist, which is absolutely fine. But we've just come out of 2 years with COVID and we're entering a recession, and I tried to get that through to council. You know, I think we could have waited on the staff position for many years, and like Leith White was saying earlier, there's grants out there available and other organizations that can help us with our environmental issues. We're only 4 by 4 square miles. I think we could have waited for that for a little bit. We've just gone through COVID. People can barely put groceries on their tables, and here we are hiring an environmentalist. So yeah, I don't see things the same way. But I think we need a council that can sit at the table and actually discuss it, and not just go into a council chamber with their minds already made up and having discussed it on the fly. If you look at any of our council meetings, there's no discussions. There's none at all. And we need transparency with our council. We need to be open and upfront with our citizens and show them what we've spent our money on. We owe that to you. We work for you. We serve you.
Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. Councillor McCall on this question.
Yeah, thank you for this. And I think on this council, we definitely have robust discussions, as we did this year and in other years, around our budget. One of the things I did want to point out, I think it's been pointed out before, is we do have the lowest on average multifamily and single family tax in the region, and that's something that we can be extremely proud of. And I know that we discuss every 0.1% tax increase, because no one wants to pay taxes, but I think we also realize we need to invest in things. I mean, I've talked to residents knocking on the doors, and this is what I hear. It's, Nathan, we need to do something about the environment. Nathan, we need to do something about community safety and our first responders. Nathan, we need to address homelessness. And you know what they say? I'm willing to pay a little bit more if you can actually get the job done. So the environmental coordinator position, we saw massive floods in Langley City last November. There were sections of our community that were almost wiped out. We have challenges with our water, our sewer infrastructure. We know that we have we have the lowest tree canopy in Metro Vancouver. There's a lot of environmental things that we need to tackle. And I think, as I've seen through tonight, climate action is something that we need to do, because let's be honest, we're in a climate emergency right now. So that's something that I was very supportive of, and we had a robust debate about that environmental coordinator position, because you know what? Climate change is a climate emergency, and we need to take action today, so we don't end up with more residents getting flooded out. I think the other thing that we can think about with affordability, though, is taking a different approach. So we know that there's a huge cost in transportation for families. So if you have 3 cars, can you get away with 2 cars? Or if you have 2 cars, can you get away with 1 car? So as a community, how can we make life affordable in other ways? And I think looking at how we address our transportation system to make life more affordable, so you're not spending $15,000 a year on a vehicle, is something that we need to look at.
Thank you for that. We had actually a number of questions from seniors and seniors groups, which actually identified a bit of a conflict between transportation modes. Some want a more walkable community and the infrastructure to support that, to make it safer and more comfortable to walk in Langley City. Others want cars and roads maintained for mobility issues because they can't walk and they need to drive to where they're going. How do we balance these two seemingly conflicts as we build out our transportation network?
Yeah, and it's not really, I think there's this thing about a war on car or we're not doing enough, but it's not a one or the other, it's a both situation. So as far as making sure that we have safe driving infrastructure and safe cycling, walking, or scooting infrastructure, that's with separation. So TransLink gives municipalities funding, as does ICBC, to do what they call AAA infrastructure, which is all ages and ability. Now, I know we learned a bit on the 203rd Street project, and we've iterated through that with some changes on 208 and in other areas. But the thing is, separating the modes, putting in traffic circles, all those things make for a safer community. It increases traffic flow. So it's again, it's not a one or the other situation. We can do both, and I think we have in this community.
Thank you. And Mayor Vandenberg, over to you on this question.
All I keep thinking is I hate those delineators on the roads. I don't know if anybody else does, but I hate them, and I gotta say it. I know why they're there, and I know we need it. We need bike lanes, I'm not saying that, but those delineators are visibly ugly. They make people angry. The bike lanes aren't getting used, but anyway, we do need them, and they're part of a transportation system that'll lead us to buses and SkyTrain and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, and really, it's quite honestly the province that builds the roads, and then, you know, we might get, you know, one or two design examples, and then we kind of choose or whatever, right? So yeah, it's very interesting, but you know what the good thing about those things are, and I never realized it until we started going around and talking to people at Langley Lodge and stuff. The scooter gang that hangs around the downtown core, I don't know if you folks know any of the people on the scooters, they love the bike lanes because, you know, they have access, and the good thing about it, like the one we did on 208, that was a grant that was given to us by SkyTrain. I think we put a little bit of money into it. But the part about that is it's leading right to our only high school, which we don't have in the city. It's in the township, which is another issue, which I can go on a rant about. But the safety of those students getting across 208 from my area in Blacklock and all those other areas is vital, and it's instrumental, and it's made a huge difference. But we need to make those connections with everything, so everybody is accessible, which is why Charisse is a very good candidate.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. We're going to be moving on to our last question here. It's kind of two parts, so I'm going to have 3 minutes out of the clock here. It's around housing and housing affordability, or someone mentioned housing unaffordability. But it also goes to the city's relationship and jurisdiction. Langley City is the second fastest growing community in Metro Vancouver now, with people drawn here for the lifestyle, the amenities, and for affordability. But that affordability has been eroded over the past few years, first by skyrocketing home prices, and now by soaring interest rates and inflation. So the first of the two questions is, what do you think can and should be done at the local level to address and supply affordable housing units here in Langley? And given the jurisdictional challenges, what experience do you have in working with higher levels of government to ensure Langley City gets its fair share of federal and provincial support in this area? So this was over to you, Mayor Vandenbroek first, and then Councillor Coleman.
Well, you know, affordable housing, everybody has a different, you know, definition of affordable housing. What I think we need is a mixture, quite honestly. You know, and other candidates have touched on all the areas, absolutely. But we need to keep working with the feds and, you know, the province to provide subsidized housing. We also need, we've been behind in building for over 20 years. And until we build more, we're never going to fill those gaps because people aren't moving. People from, you know, an apartment aren't moving into a house anymore, or vice versa. And that's usually what happens, right? During your lifetime, you do your progression. You start in a basement suite, then you go to an apartment. So we really have to expand the housing, and we know that's happening in Surrey, it's happening everywhere. And we're lucky in the city in the sense that it's been slow and steady because we have to tear down in order to rebuild, which is one of our biggest challenges that we're going to face with SkyTrain coming in and the properties being bought up and rebuilt. There's already an extra cost because our land is hard to build on because it's clay. We can only go a certain amount. We know prices have skyrocketed through the roof. Developers can't even get clicks to put siding on houses right now. So we are facing challenges, but a way to address these is we know what's coming. We know there's a new CEO of BC Housing coming in. We know we have a new premier coming in. I'm pretty sure we're going to see changes coming to our housing model throughout the region. So we really can't say we're going to do this, this, and this when we're waiting on the provincial government to kind of give us an idea of where they're going to, where we go in the future with BC Housing, subsidized housing, and all that. Because I'm going to say I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be a new plan coming with a new CEO. And plus we have to add Aboriginal housing into that as well, because we've got thousands of people. They just did a review that also need housing. We have I think 400,000 immigrants coming this year. What is do you know the number? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry. We know we have lots of immigrants coming too, and we need housing. So we have to be creative. We have to work with developers. QRD, prime example. I asked for solar panels. I got solar panels. They're promoting, not only are they building stuff on top of their buildings, their rentals, they also provided Canada aid for us and paid for it. So those are partnerships.
Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. Councillor.
Thank you very much. So you probably heard candidates earlier talking about the housing continuum. So I'm going to kind of focus more on how the city can support it. So the first part is what you call the affordable housing with BC Housing. So that's where BC Housing today is looking at partnering with nonprofits or churches to build projects that will have a component of what they call rent geared income, which is for folks that are at a certain income threshold. That's 30% of their income, below market rentals, and then a deep subsidy, which is for folks that might be on social assistance or disability. So for that kind of housing, what the city can do is look at partnership opportunities where there's land available. So I can think of a few places. One of them would be like the Langley Lions projects, and they're redeveloping from about 400 to 900 units. And then there's also a lot of opportunities with our faith community, and we've seen that in the township of Langley. The city can do things like eliminate what we call development cost charges and community amenity contributions. These are things that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if we can give that discount for this affordable housing, we can move those projects along faster. We could also start looking at things like a fast lane for affordable projects, where I know we're really fast, but we can put those ones to the front of the queue. So that's something that we can look at. The other thing that we can look at is just below market rentals. So one of the things that is really important to me, and what I heard loud and clear from residents in our community, is we do have older rental stock, and those are starting to get redeveloped. So Langley City Council recently introduced a tenant relocation policy. It does need to get tweaked, I'll admit that, but the goal of that is really for folks that will be displaced. We want to make sure that they're treated equitably, and what's more important to me that we need to work on is that they're offered a place back in our community when construction's done. Right now in Langley City, for the rentals, when there's a redevelopment, we require that those rentals stay in place when the building's open. And I was really proud of passing a motion that was supported by all of council to look at a below market rental strategy that our staff is working on right now, so we're not pricing people out of our community. That is totally unacceptable to me. Finally, we're looking at the ownership model for housing. So we know that we need to build what they call the missing middle, which is townhouses. Our new official community plan looks at running those along 200 Street and 208 Street, which is new. We're also looking at adding what they call gentle density into our single family neighborhoods, which actually supports what David Eby just announced today, where he's saying you can build up to 3 units of housing. That's what he wants to do. We're actually looking at that right now in certain areas where you could do a secondary suite, your private house, and a granny flat. So lots of opportunity in Langley City, and I look forward to working with the province and council to implementing that.
Thank you very much. We're going to be moving on to closing statements. I did say I would give you some time for closing statements, so I'm going to put a minute on the clock, and we'll go there. And since you were the one who actually...
Nathan could go first.
Okay, there we go. So Councillor McCall, on to closing remarks, and then Mayor Vandenbroek, you can wrap us up here. Thanks for paying attention.
Yeah, no, it's been really great sitting and listening over the last couple of hours here. There were some really great ideas I heard from all of the council candidates, and I'm really excited because I know everybody who's running has some great ideas and they really care about our community. And if elected as mayor, I really look forward to working with each and every one of you that's elected to move Langley City forward in a good way. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Vandenbroek.
What I'm going to close with is, what I'd like to see is less talk and more action. Let's get some stuff done. It's been many, many years talking about it, talking about getting things done and dealing with the homelessness situation and cleaning up the downtown core. And I believe getting SkyTrain is a catalyst for this. You know, I made some promises to you folks when you elected me as mayor, and I've kept those promises. And I would hope that you would see the value in that and the experience that I had. Those relationships will be gone if I don't get reelected. So, you know, I look forward to working together with everyone. There's some great candidates here, like Nathan said, and good for you all for putting your names forward. It's not easy. It's a nasty, nasty business, and I know firsthand. And you know, and it's even harder in politics, I'm not gonna lie. But thank you all for putting your names out because it's super important. And it shows that you care about your community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Vandenbroek. Thank you.